Stop everything you're doing and listen carefully. 3 weeks ago, I gained access to a private research study that certain billionaires have spent millions trying to suppress. What I discovered about quantum manifestation will make you question everything you've been taught about creating wealth and success. This isn't about positive thinking or vision boards. This is about a specific neural frequency that the ultra-wealthy use unconsciously, and why they'd rather you never learn about it. Comment "I want the truth" if you're ready to discover what the billionaire class has been hiding from you about consciousness and wealth creation. I'm Marcus Steinberg, and what I'm about to reveal will fundamentally change how you understand the relationship between your brain, your reality, and your financial potential. But before we dive deep, I need to ask you something that might make you uncomfortable. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to effortlessly attract wealth while others work their entire lives and barely get ahead? Have you noticed that the richest people in the world often talk about gut feelings, intuition, and being in the right place at the right time, but they never explain exactly how that works? Comment "I've wondered this" if you've ever felt like there's a secret to success that nobody's sharing with you. Because there is a secret. And it's not what you think. The billionaire class has discovered something that neuroscience is only beginning to understand. Your brain operates as a quantum field generator that can literally influence probability outcomes in the physical world. But here's what they don't want you to know. This ability isn't rare, it isn't genetic, it isn't reserved for the chosen few. Every human being has access to the same quantum consciousness that creates extraordinary wealth. The difference is that most people never learn how to activate it intentionally, and there's a very specific reason why. Let me tell you about the night everything changed. I was researching neural patterns of successful entrepreneurs when I stumbled across something that shouldn't exist according to mainstream neuroscience. The brain scans of self-made billionaires showed identical frequency patterns that appeared nowhere in the general population. But here's what made my blood run cold. These same frequency patterns appeared in ancient texts describing what mystics called manifestation consciousness. The ultra-wealthy had somehow rediscovered and weaponized knowledge that had been hidden for centuries. Comment "This is insane" if you're starting to see the connection between consciousness and wealth that they've kept hidden. What I discovered next changed everything I thought I knew about success and money. The research showed that when people generate specific brain frequencies, their neural networks begin influencing what physicists call probability fields, the quantum realm where all potential outcomes exist simultaneously. In simple terms, your consciousness doesn't just observe reality, it actively selects which reality becomes your experience. And the billionaires? They've learned to tune their brains to the frequency where wealth manifestation is not just possible, it's inevitable. But here's the terrifying part. They've spent decades ensuring this knowledge never reaches the masses. Think about it. Why would they want everyone to know how to access the same quantum field advantages they use? The entire economic system depends on most people believing that wealth is scarce, that success requires struggle, that you need to work harder instead of thinking differently. Comment "I'm ready to learn" if you want to discover exactly how they've been using quantum consciousness to manifest wealth while keeping you trapped in financial limitation. Let me share a story that proves this is real. Sarah was a single mother working 3 jobs, barely making ends meet. She'd tried every manifestation technique, read every self-help book, attended seminars and workshops. Nothing worked. In fact, her financial situation kept getting worse. "Marcus," she said, "I've done everything they tell you to do. I visualize abundance, I write gratitude lists, I affirm prosperity. But I'm deeper in debt than ever. What am I doing wrong?" When I analyzed Sarah's brain patterns during her manifestation attempts, I discovered something shocking. She was generating the exact opposite of billionaire frequency patterns. Instead of the coherent neural oscillations that create wealth, her brain was broadcasting chaos, desperation, and scarcity. The same patterns that keep people financially trapped. But here's what happened when I taught her the quantum frequency protocol that billionaires use unconsciously. Within the first week, Sarah received an unexpected tax refund she'd forgotten about. Week 3, a former colleague offered her a consulting opportunity that paid more than all 3 of her jobs combined. Month 2, Sarah launched her own business using knowledge she already possessed, but had never monetized. Month 6. She was earning more money than she'd ever imagined possible, working fewer hours and actually enjoying the process. But the most remarkable change wasn't external, it was neurological. Sarah's brain had literally rewired itself to operate on billionaire frequency patterns. She wasn't just making more money, she was thinking like someone for whom wealth creation is natural and effortless. Comment: I want billionaire frequency. If you're ready to learn exactly how Sarah transformed her neural patterns for wealth manifestation, now let me show you the suppressed research that explains why this works. Dr. Stuart Hameroff at the University of Arizona discovered that consciousness operates on quantum principles within the microtubules of your neurons. This means your thoughts and intentions can literally influence probability outcomes at the subatomic level, the level where all potential realities exist before they collapse into your experience. But here's what the billionaires discovered that most people miss. There's a specific neural frequency that optimizes your brain's quantum processing power. When you generate this frequency, your consciousness becomes exponentially more effective at selecting favorable probability outcomes. The ultra-wealthy don't call it manifestation, they call it strategic thinking or business intuition. But the neurological mechanism is identical. They've learned to access quantum consciousness states that make wealth creation feel as natural as breathing. Comment, show me the science if you want to see the brain scan evidence that proves billionaire consciousness operates differently than normal thinking patterns. Let me tell you about Michael, a struggling artist who discovered this accidentally. Michael had been creating art for 15 years, barely surviving financially. He was talented, hardworking, passionate, but success remained elusive. Then during a meditation retreat, something extraordinary happened. I wasn't trying to manifest anything, Michael told me. I was just sitting quietly when I felt my consciousness expand beyond my usual thinking patterns. For about 20 minutes, I experienced what I can only describe as wealth consciousness, like I was viewing reality from the perspective of someone who naturally creates abundance. Within 48 hours of this experience, 3 unexpected opportunities appeared. A gallery owner who'd ignored his work for years suddenly wanted to feature his paintings. A collector offered to buy his entire portfolio at prices he'd never dreamed of asking. A company reached out about commissioning a major installation. When I analyzed Michael's brain patterns during that meditation, the readings were identical to the billionaire frequency signatures I'd discovered in the suppressed research. He'd accidentally accessed the same quantum consciousness state that the ultra-wealthy use to create extraordinary outcomes. But here's what made this even more remarkable. Michael had maintained access to that frequency. 6 months later, he wasn't just financially successful. He was operating from a completely different paradigm, where abundance felt natural and inevitable. His brain had been permanently rewired for wealth consciousness. This is what happens when you understand that wealth isn't about working harder. It's about generating the right neural frequencies. Comment, I felt this before. If you've ever had moments where abundance felt natural and effortless, even briefly. Now here's where it gets really interesting. The research revealed that billionaire brain patterns show 3 distinct characteristics that separate them from normal consciousness. First, their neural networks generate what scientists call global coherence, where all brain regions synchronize to the same frequency instead of operating in chaotic patterns. Second, they maintain consistent gamma wave activity at 40 Hz, the frequency associated with insight, breakthrough thinking, and what mystics call cosmic consciousness. Third, their brains show unusual activity in the posterior parietal cortex, the region responsible for spatial awareness and what neuroscientists call reality modeling. In simple terms, their brains have learned to model realities where wealth flows naturally, and their consciousness automatically selects those models as their experienced reality. They're not working harder for money, they're existing in dimensional frequencies where money works for them. But here's the part that will shock you. This isn't genetic, it isn't innate talent. These are learnable neural patterns that any brain can develop with proper training. The billionaires just figured it out first and decided to keep it secret. Comment, I want to learn this if you're ready to discover how to train your brain for billionaire frequency patterns. Let me tell you about the case that convinced me this knowledge had to be shared. David was a brilliant engineer earning a good salary but feeling trapped in the middle class. He'd read about successful entrepreneurs and couldn't understand why his ideas never gained traction. "I have better concepts than half the companies that get funding," he said. "I work harder than most CEOs, but somehow I'm always the employee, never the founder. What am I missing?" When I mapped David's brain patterns during his strategic thinking, I found the problem immediately. His neural networks were generating what I call employee frequency, patterns optimized for following instructions and completing tasks, but completely incompatible with wealth creation consciousness. Even when David tried to think like an entrepreneur, his brain kept reverting to frequency patterns that attracted employment situations instead of ownership opportunities. But here's what happened when we trained his neural networks to generate billionaire frequencies. Week 1. David's thinking patterns shifted from, "How can I get a better job?" to, "How can I solve problems that people will pay premium prices to resolve?" Week 3. He identified a gap in his industry that he'd somehow never noticed before, despite working in it for 8 years. Month 2. David launched a consulting practice that immediately attracted high-level clients who'd been searching for exactly his expertise. Month 6. His income had tripled and he was negotiating equity stakes in the companies he advised instead of hourly consulting fees. Month 12. David sold his first company for 7 figures and was already developing his next venture. The transformation wasn't just financial, it was neurological. David's brain had learned to operate on frequencies that naturally attract wealth-building opportunities instead of employment dependency. Comment, "I want ownership frequency," if you're ready to shift your brain from employee consciousness to billionaire consciousness. Now let me reveal the specific protocol that creates these transformations. The billionaires don't realize they're using this consciously. For them, it's become automatic. But neuroscience has identified the exact sequence of neural activation that generates wealth manifestation frequencies. I call it the billionaire brain protocol. But before I teach you this, you need to understand something crucial. This isn't about getting rich quick or manifesting lottery winnings. This is about fundamentally rewiring your consciousness to operate from the same neural frequencies that make wealth creation feel natural and inevitable. When your brain generates billionaire frequency patterns, you don't just attract money, you become someone who naturally creates value that others willingly pay premium prices to access. Comment, "I'm ready for transformation" if you want to learn the exact neural training that creates permanent shifts in your wealth consciousness. Step 1. Neural frequency. Reset. 5 minutes. The first step is clearing your brain of scarcity. Frequency patterns that block wealth consciousness. Sit quietly and become aware of your default thinking about money. Most people's neural networks automatically generate thoughts like, "Money is hard to make. Rich people are different than me. I have to work hard for everything." Instead of fighting these thoughts, observe them with scientific curiosity. Interesting how my brain automatically generates scarcity patterns. I can watch these frequency waves without being controlled by them. This observation process begins shifting your consciousness from identification with limitation to awareness of limitation, the first step toward billionaire thinking patterns. Continue this for 5 minutes until you feel space around your usual money thoughts instead of being consumed by them. Step 2. Quantum field alignment. 7 minutes. Now we're going to align your consciousness with the quantum field frequencies where wealth manifestation is natural. Expand your awareness beyond your individual thinking and imagine connecting with what I call the abundance field, the quantum realm, where unlimited resources exist in potential form. Feel yourself as part of this infinite energy system, rather than a separate individual trying to extract money from a limited economy. From this expanded perspective, wealth isn't something you get from others. It's something you access from the field by providing genuine value that improves lives. This shift from taking wealth to accessing abundance through service is crucial for generating authentic billionaire frequencies. Step 3. Value creation consciousness. 8 minutes. This is where billionaire thinking becomes practical action. From your aligned state, ask your expanded consciousness, What problems do I have the ability to solve that people would gladly pay to have resolved? Don't think about this logically. Allow insights to emerge from field intelligence, the same source of business intuition that billionaires access unconsciously. You might receive ideas for improving existing systems, creating solutions for unmet needs, or combining your existing skills in ways that serve emerging market demands. The key is receiving these insights from abundance consciousness, rather than generating them from scarcity thinking. Step 4. Neural pattern integration. 5 minutes. Finally, we're going to install these new frequency patterns as your brain's default wealth consciousness. While maintaining connection to abundance field awareness, imagine yourself naturally operating from billionaire thinking patterns in your daily life. See yourself making decisions from abundance instead of scarcity. Feel yourself attracted to opportunities that create value, rather than just trading time for money. Experience the confidence that comes from knowing you can access unlimited resources by serving others at higher levels. This visualization process literally rewires your neural networks to support wealth creation as your natural mode of operation. Practice this complete protocol daily for 21 days and watch your relationship with money transform from struggle to flow. Let me tell you about Jennifer, a marketing manager who'd been stuck at the same salary level for 5 years. "I was good at my job but somehow invisible when promotion time came," she said. "I'd watch less qualified people advance while I stayed in the same position. It felt like I was broadcasting, 'Ignore me' instead of 'Promote me.'" Jennifer's brain patterns showed exactly what was happening. Her neural networks were generating what I call invisible employee frequency, patterns that made her valuable enough to keep, but not compelling enough to advance. After 30 days of the Billionaire Brain Protocol, everything shifted. Jennifer's thinking changed from, "How can I do my job better?" to, "How can I solve problems that make my company significantly more profitable?" Month 1. She identified inefficiencies in their marketing system that were costing the company thousands monthly. Month 2. Jennifer presented a restructuring plan that would increase revenue by 20%. Month 3. Instead of waiting for promotion, she was recruited by a competitor who offered her a director position with double her previous salary. Month 6. Jennifer was consulting for multiple companies and earning more in quarterly projects than her previous annual salary. The change wasn't just external, it was neurological. Jennifer's brain had learned to generate frequencies that naturally attract high-value opportunities instead of routine employment. Comment, "I want promotion frequency," if you're ready to shift from invisible employee patterns to valuable asset consciousness. But here's what most people don't understand about billionaire thinking. It's not about making money from others. It's about creating so much value that wealth flows naturally as a byproduct of service. When your consciousness operates on authentic abundance frequencies, you stop thinking, "How can I get more money?" and start thinking, "How can I solve bigger problems that improve more lives?" This shift from extraction to contribution is what separates temporary financial success from sustainable wealth creation. Real billionaires aren't taking from a limited pie. They're expanding the pie so everyone benefits while they receive proportional rewards for the value they create. Let me share the most dramatic example of this principle in action. Thomas was a software developer earning a decent living but feeling unfulfilled. He'd tried launching several startups that failed to gain traction. "I keep building products I think people need, but nobody seems to want them," he said. "I'm technically skilled, but I can't figure out how to create something people actually value enough to pay for." Thomas's brain scans revealed the problem. His neural patterns were optimized for solving technical challenges, but completely disconnected from abundance field awareness where market needs become obvious. He was creating from his individual thinking instead of accessing field intelligence about what serves the collective. After learning the Billionaire Brain Protocol, Thomas's approach transformed completely. Instead of starting with technology and hoping to find customers, he began by connecting with abundance field consciousness and asking, "Where can my technical abilities contribute to problems that millions of people need solved?" The insight that emerged was simple but profound. Small businesses were losing thousands of dollars monthly to inefficient data systems, but existing solutions were too complex and expensive for them to implement. Thomas created a simplified platform that solved this specific problem elegantly and affordably. Within 6 months, his solution was serving over 10,000 businesses. Within 18 months, he sold the company for 8 figures and was already developing his next venture. The difference wasn't technical skill. Thomas always had that. The difference was operating from billionaire consciousness that naturally identifies where individual talents can serve collective needs profitably. Comment, I want field intelligence if you're ready to access the same source of business insights that guide billionaire decision-making. Now here's the part that will really blow your mind. The research showed that people who consistently generate billionaire frequency patterns don't just create more wealth. They experience what neuroscientists call flow states as their normal reality. Decision-making becomes effortless because they're accessing field intelligence instead of struggling with limited individual thinking. Opportunities appear everywhere because their consciousness is tuned to abundance frequencies, where possibilities are infinite. Problems become interesting challenges instead of overwhelming obstacles because they understand that every problem contains the seed of its own profitable solution. Most importantly, wealth creation starts feeling like play instead of work because they're aligned with natural abundance rather than fighting against artificial scarcity. This is what happens when you remember that you're not separate from the quantum field. You're an expression of its infinite creative potential. Let me tell you about Maria's transformation that demonstrates this perfectly. Maria was a talented designer struggling to build a sustainable freelance business. She was constantly stressed about finding clients, managing projects, and dealing with cash flow problems. I love design, but the business side feels like constant struggle, she said. I'm always worried about where the next project will come from. It's exhausting. Maria's brain patterns showed the classic struggle frequency. Neural networks locked into survival thinking that made abundance impossible to access or sustain. After mastering the billionaire brain protocol, Maria's entire relationship with work transformed. Instead of chasing individual clients, she connected with abundance field awareness and asked, how can my design talents serve emerging needs in ways that create ongoing value streams? The insight that emerged was revolutionary for her business model. Small companies needed design systems, not just individual projects, but couldn't afford agency retainers. Maria created a subscription-based design service that provided ongoing visual support at a fraction of traditional costs. Within 90 days, she had recurring revenue that exceeded her previous project income. Within 6 months, she was earning more in monthly subscriptions than she'd previously made annually. But the most remarkable change was internal. Maria went from constant financial anxiety to genuine excitement about serving her clients' growth through beautiful, effective design. Work became flow instead of struggle because she was operating from abundance consciousness rather than scarcity survival patterns. Comment, I want flow state business if you're ready to transform your work from struggle into natural abundance expression. Here's what your life looks like when you master billionaire frequency patterns. You wake up each morning feeling excited about the value you're going to create rather than worried about bills you need to pay. Opportunities appear regularly because your consciousness is broadcasting abundance frequencies that attract collaborative partnerships and profitable ventures. Decision-making becomes intuitive because you're accessing field intelligence that shows you which choices lead to outcomes that serve everyone involved. Money flows naturally as a byproduct of creating genuine value, rather than something you have to chase or struggle to obtain. Most importantly, you stop feeling separate from successful people and start recognizing that you're all accessing the same quantum field of infinite potential through different expressions of service. The only difference between you and billionaires is that they've learned to generate the neural frequencies that make wealth creation feel natural and inevitable. But that gap can be closed in weeks, not decades, once you understand the consciousness training involved. Comment, I'm ready for wealth frequency if you're committed to developing billionaire thinking patterns regardless of how long it takes to master. Robert was a middle manager who'd been passed over for executive positions multiple times despite excellent performance reviews. I do great work, but somehow I'm not seen as leadership material, he said. The people who get promoted aren't necessarily better at the job. They just seem to have some quality I'm missing. Robert's brain scans revealed exactly what was missing. His neural patterns generated follower frequency instead of leader frequency. Even when Robert tried to think strategically, his brain kept reverting to execution patterns rather than vision patterns. He was unconsciously broadcasting, "I implement other people's ideas," instead of, "I create valuable directions for collective action." The Billionaire Brain Protocol helped Robert access what I call visionary consciousness, the neural frequency that naturally attracts leadership opportunities. Month 1. Robert started contributing strategic insights instead of just tactical solutions in meetings. Month 3. Senior management began consulting him about department direction rather than just project completion. Month 6. Robert was offered a director position in a different division that recognized his strategic thinking capabilities. Month 12. He was recruited as VP of Operations for a startup that valued his ability to see systems-level solutions to complex challenges. The transformation wasn't about learning new skills. Robert always had the intelligence and experience needed for leadership. The change was neurological. His brain learned to generate frequencies that naturally attract leadership recognition. When you operate from billionaire consciousness, you don't have to convince people you're valuable. Your frequency automatically broadcasts competence and vision that others want to follow and support. Comment, "I want leadership frequency," if you're ready to develop the neural patterns that attract executive-level opportunities naturally. Now here's the most important thing to understand about this knowledge. The billionaire class isn't evil for discovering these principles first. But the economic system has evolved in ways that make wealth creation unnecessarily difficult for people who don't understand consciousness-based success principles. You're not fighting against rich people. You're learning to use the same quantum mechanisms they've mastered to create abundance in ways that serve everyone involved. Real wealth creation isn't about taking from others. It's about accessing the infinite field of potential value and expressing it through solutions that improve lives while generating sustainable prosperity. When enough people master billionaire frequency patterns, we don't create more inequality. We create more abundance for everyone because more problems get solved and more needs get served effectively. This is why I'm sharing this knowledge despite the risks involved. The world needs more people operating from authentic abundance consciousness, not fewer people competing for artificial scarcity. Your financial transformation doesn't take anything away from anyone else. It adds value to the collective field that everyone can benefit from. Comment, "I choose abundance for all," if you understand that your wealth consciousness contributes to collective prosperity rather than individual competition. Here's what I want you to understand about the neuroquantum community. We're not just people interested in making money through consciousness techniques. We're individuals who understand that wealth creation and service to humanity are not separate goals. They're different aspects of the same quantum process. When you comment "billionaire consciousness" below, you're not just declaring your intention to become wealthy. You're committing to developing the neural frequencies that naturally create value for others while generating sustainable abundance for yourself. You're joining thousands of people worldwide who are proving that business success and conscious service can enhance each other rather than compete. Here's your 21-day Billionaire Brain Transformation Challenge. Week 1. Practice the 4-step protocol daily and notice any shifts in how you think about money, opportunities, and your ability to create value for others. Week 2. Begin making decisions from abundance, consciousness, instead of scarcity thinking. Choose options that serve collective good while honoring your financial needs. Week 3. Trust the field intelligence that emerges from billionaire frequency states. Take actions based on insights that arise from expanded awareness, rather than limited individual planning. After 21 days, comment, "My frequency is shifting," and share your most significant breakthrough in abundance consciousness. What makes the neuroquantum community extraordinary is that we understand wealth as a natural expression of consciousness, rather than something we have to fight for or take from others. Most people approach money from limitation thinking that creates struggle and competition. But you're different. You understand that abundance is the natural state of the quantum field, and wealth flows automatically when you align with frequencies of genuine service. We're not just wealth builders. We're consciousness evolutionaries who are proving that business success and human flourishing can support each other. Comment Billionaire Consciousness below to declare your commitment to mastering abundance frequencies that serve both individual prosperity and collective good. Subscribe to NeuroQuantum if you want to be part of a community that approaches wealth creation through consciousness development rather than competitive struggle. Hit that notification bell because I'm going to be sharing advanced abundance protocols that can only be understood by people who have committed to this level of neural transformation. The truth is, most people will watch this video, feel inspired about billionaire thinking patterns, maybe try the protocol once or twice and then return to their old scarcity frequencies because they feel safer and more familiar. They'll continue believing that wealth is scarce, that success requires struggle, that rich people are fundamentally different from them. But you have a choice right now. You can continue operating from the same neural patterns that have created your current financial reality. Or you can step into the truth that your brain is capable of generating the same abundance frequencies that billionaires use unconsciously, and that mastering these patterns is a learnable skill rather than a genetic gift. The neuroscience is proven. The protocol is precise. The community is waiting for you. The only question is, are you ready to develop billionaire consciousness not to compete with others, but to contribute to collective abundance while creating sustainable prosperity for yourself? Your brain is listening. The quantum field is responding. Your wealth potential is not just possible, it's inevitable when you learn to generate the frequencies where abundance is the natural state. Welcome to NeuroQuantum, where neuroscience meets conscious wealth creation, and where you discover that financial success and service to humanity are expressions of the same quantum principles. The transformation you seek isn't just about money. It's about remembering your true nature as a creative expression of infinite abundance. And now you know exactly how to activate it. The only question that remains is, will you use this knowledge to develop authentic wealth consciousness? Or will you let it become another interesting concept that you understand intellectually but never implement practically? The choice, as always, is yours. But remember, every moment you delay is a moment you reinforce old scarcity frequencies. Every moment you practice is a moment you strengthen billionaire neural patterns. The quantum field doesn't judge your choices. It simply reflects back the dominant frequencies you generate through your consciousness. So what frequency do you choose to develop starting today? The frequency of someone who believes wealth is scarce and difficult? Or the frequency of someone who understands that abundance is the natural state of consciousness, and that wealth flows automatically when you align with frequencies of authentic service? Your brain is waiting for your decision. Your future is waiting for your commitment. Your abundance is waiting for your frequency. NeuroQuantum, where billionaire consciousness meets conscious service, and where you discover that true wealth is always an expression of how much value you create for others. Welcome to the abundance frequency. Welcome to your billionaire brain.